If you are a theme park enthusiast, or even just a fan of the Walt Disney Company, you might keep up with the changes going on at Disneyland and the Walt Disney World Resort. Walt once said that Disneyland will never be completed. It will continue to grow as long as there is imagination in the world. Often, parkgoers welcome the opportunity to experience something new, but sometimes it means saying goodbye to something beloved. Recently, Princess Tiana found a new home in the Magic Kingdom. While many fans are excited about Tiana's Bayou adventure, there are some individuals disappointed by the loss of Splash Mountain. Discourse on the subject can get pretty heated at times, but for me, it's just another reminder of how history can repeat itself. People often forget that in order for us to experience Splash Mountain, we had to say goodbye to a beloved Disneyland attraction. Stay tuned, because in this video, we'll chat about one of Disney's most patriotic attractions and how the animatronic cast would eventually leave Tomorrowland and take up residence with Brer Rabbit and his entourage. Now, before we begin, please take a moment, click that like button, and if this is your first time checking us out, consider subscribing to Retro Spectrum. Now, let's begin with an important question. How many of you are familiar with Sam the Eagle?
As an American Eagle, I feel it is my duty to say a few words about the glories of industry and technology.
No, that's Sam Eagle, a meticulous Muppet voiced by Frank Oz. Good guess, but that's Sam the Olympic Eagle, the mascot for the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles, California. Disneyland's version of Sam the Eagle hosted an iconic theme park attraction known as America Sings. You see, when Country Bear Jamboree opened in Walt Disney World in 1971, attendees were super impressed. Marc and Bertino were responsible for the show, and it was one of the final projects they had worked on with Walt before he passed away. Back in California, the fine folks at General Electric were looking to move the Carousel of Progress from Disneyland to the Magic Kingdom in Central Florida. Their opinion was that the carousel was no longer a draw for the West Coast and might see larger crowds on the East Coast. This left a vacancy in Tomorrowland's incredible rotating theater. Bertino recalls that Imagineers tossed around the idea of a stage show celebrating music from around the world. However, with America's bicentennial on the horizon, they settled on the United States musical heritage. Now, Imagineers already had experience mashing patriotism with animatronics. Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln was a huge hit at the New York World's Fair in 1964 and eventually found a home at Disneyland before the fair was even over. The Hall of Presidents was a day one attraction at Walt Disney World in 1971 and featured an incredible collection of animatronic figures. Still, the Disney Company wanted to do more to celebrate this momentous occasion. Both parks would introduce America on Parade, a kind of strange cavalcade utilizing floats, music, and a number of odd figures with giant heads. I think the most iconic moment was that first float featuring Mickey, Donald, and Goofy reenacting the spirits of '76.
In the spirit of '76, Walt Disney Productions proudly presents America on Parade, a salute to America's 200th birthday.
After that, though, the parade gets kind of odd. There was a giant stacked sandwich meant to highlight America's love for oversized menu items, I guess. Oh, and there was also a float celebrating corporal punishment. This includes figures placed in wooden stocks and another placed in a ducking stool, the kind used during the Salem witch trials. This may go down as one of the strangest floats in Disney history.
Starting a new life was not all fun. Hard work and discipline were required, and being locked all day in the stocks or plunged into chilly water on the dunking stool served as discipline for those who were mischievous.
I suppose the soundtrack for America on Parade was memorable since it showcased some of America's classics like Oh Susanna, Clementine, Turkey in the Straw, and Zippity Doo-Dah. The Sherman Brothers even dropped a brand new track for the parade. While Richard and Robert weren't currently under contract, they had already been working on a new track for the Carousel of Progress in Walt Disney World. So the folks at Disney asked them to stick around a little longer and write a brand new song titled The Glorious Fourth.
A million skyrockets and Roman candles sing, zooming on high. Red, white, and blue sparklers and spinning hill wheels race day in the sky.
Now, while I love the Sherman Brothers, I have to admit that what Marc Davis and Bertino had planned for America Sings would go on to be one of the most impressive attractions in Disney history. This show was an incredible Imagineering feat based on an impressive number of animatronic figures. All 114 figures were inspired by Davis's designs and helped to tell the story of America through music and song. This was also the first attraction these two would work on without Walt's supervision. Just like the Carousel of Progress, parkgoers were able to be transported through time as the theater rotated. Originally, they considered having a wise old owl host the show. Marc Davis drew several sketches of Ollie the Owl, who would be an important part of the show, but in the end, they decided the real star should be an American eagle named Sam. Sam was voiced by the Big Daddy balladeer Burl Ives. Ives always felt he owed a debt to Walt Disney for helping him jumpstart his career. So accepting a role in America Sings was just another way for Ives to say thank you even after Walt's death. During the show's brief introduction, guests watch as Sam sings America's first popular song, Yankee Doodle. He also sings a line from I Dream of Jeannie before Ollie offers up the running gag of the production. Then in Act 1, the audience is transported to the American South during the mid-19th century. That's where we first encounter a quartet of geese singing lines from a couple different songs, including Camptown Races. Along the way, we are introduced to a few more audio animatronic figures, including a band of gators known as the Swamp Boys and a heartfelt ditty from an exhausted possum.
Lord, I wish I was a single girl again.
Marc Davis was always walking a line with his humor, but did a pretty good job of staying out of trouble. But it should come as no surprise that he'd include a nefarious fox with a felony for making moonshine in America Sings. Kind of wild for a Disney park, but it made me laugh. The segment ends with a gospel choir of animals chanting "Down by the Riverside." Now, several of these characters probably look familiar, but we'll chat more about that in a minute. Next, we're headed westward in the late 19th century. The singing geese have gone through a bit of a costume change and perform a few different tracks, including
I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day.
After that, we experience Old Chisholm Trail, Home on the Range, and the show's only original song performed by a couple of vultures known as the Boot Hill Boys.
Billy was a bad guy and carried a big gun.
He was always after lawmen and kept them on the run.
Now, there was one particular song that must have crossed the line since they wound up re-recording the track. Originally, the song Who Shot the Hole in My Sombrero was sung in a thick, over-the-top Mexican accent, but not everyone was terribly fond of the caricature, so they changed it before the attraction officially opened.
From the rancho, did he do this because I kissed his wife?
I did enjoy reading that Rex Allen was the voice of this puppy prospector. Since Rex was the original voice of Father from the Carousel of Progress, it wound up just being a really clever nod to the former attraction. That said, I wasn't able to figure out which version of the prospector he voiced. Maybe someone could help me out in the comments section.
Who shot the hole in my sombrero? Who put the bullet through the cat?
Who shot the hole in my sombrero? Who would do a terrible thing like that?
I can't figure who pulled that trigger. You don't reckon my old wife could be back in town? Goes the weasel.
Next, the audience travels to the gay 90s, just before the turn of the century. Those geese sing a few different songs, like The Bowery and She May Be Somebody's Mother. Betty Taylor, who played Slewfoot Sue in Disneyland's Golden Horseshoe Revue, lends her voice to perform the song she's most well remembered for.
Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? She mows the whole night long. I'll do the cooking, honey. I'll pay the rent. I know I've done it wrong.
We are also introduced to Blossom-Nosed Murphy and the old gray mare driving one of those newfangled automobiles. It's pretty amusing, but I'm especially fond of the bird in the gilded cage, voiced by Cheryl Poole, who can also be heard in the Country Bear Jamboree. After an incredible finale featuring Ta-Ra-Ra Boom Da, we are off to the 20th century. The singing geese perform a few different songs, including
Singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart, I'm ready for love.
There are several wonderful songs in this act, including Hound Dog, See Ya Later Alligator, Twist in USA, then the grand finale. In total, the attraction pays tribute to something like 40 songs. America Sings opened on June 29, 1974, just a few years prior to the United States' big birthday bash. The opening ceremony was as patriotic as they come. Burl Ives and Mickey Mouse stood inside Tomorrowland just in front of the rotating theater, welcoming guests to Disneyland's newest attraction.
I am proud to officially open to the general public Disneyland's 54th major attraction, America Sings. Here you go.
There it is. Climb aboard Disneyland's swinging carousel for America Sings.
The show was extremely well received and would continue to entertain park attendees for almost 15 years. The show didn't change much during that time, but the cast did appear alongside Glenn Campbell in 1976 as part of a televised Christmas special in Disneyland.
Well, here comes Santa Claus.
Here comes Santa Claus right down Santa Claus Lane.
I'm just an old bag
That is full of toys for the boys and girls again.
By the time I get to Phoenix, it'll be New Year's.
When attendance for the attraction started to shrink in the 80s, Disney Imagineering started to discuss shuttering America Sings. But what do you do with 114 audio animatronics? Legendary Imagineer Tony Baxter had been working on a new log flume attraction planned for Disney and believed it would make a suitable home for all these animatronic figures. Additionally, 2 of the singing geese left before America Sings' last show in order to take up residence in the waiting queue for Star Tours. Sam Eagle, Ollie the Owl, and the rest of the cast performed one last time on April 10th, 1988. 1 year later, many of the animatronic figures could be heard singing different songs on Disneyland's newest attraction, Splash Mountain. Both Sam and Ollie went into retirement, but in my head, they'll be making their triumphant return during America's tricentennial? Splash Mountain would entertain guests for more than 3 decades. However, I think it's worth remembering that in order for us to experience this ride, we had to say goodbye to a classic attraction. Marc Davis had some interesting thoughts about the closure of America Sings. Contrary to the idea that Disneyland is always about change, he felt that Walt wouldn't approve of change just because something had been around for a while. Rather, like Disney's films, there would always be a new audience. And I quote, "People wanted to see things they loved and have their children see it too and enjoy it." But that was his opinion. What do you think? Should Disney have closed America Sings? And was it even a good fit for Tomorrowland? Please, Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. The next video in this series will dive into America Sings' successor, Splash Mountain, in order to see what that attraction was all about. So be sure to subscribe to Retro Spectrum and click that notification bell so you won't miss our next episode of Details.
Maybe this one is yours. And will you see that old